Okay, so I'm going to use this video to talk about our project 1. So we've just finished exercise 3. And in exercise 3, we particularly discussed contemporary color mixing with tones and then saturation. So let me break down a little bit more about what that is. So what we see here is the exercise 3 assignment and the examples on the top. So we know that the complementary colors are used, so we can see the yellow and the purple on either side. And then we know that the center of this chart has the neutral once the yellow and the purple are mixed together, right? So mixing your complementary colors actually creates a neutral, but it's a specific neutral that's tied to that complementary color. In this case, yellow and purple, right? That's the brown that you get when you mix yellow and purple. You'll see a different brown when you mix, for example, red and green, which you see here. But let's go back to the yellow and the purple here. We also see that range of neutrals. So the center one was just mixing 50% purple, 50% yellow. Then we started moving closer to the yellow on this chart where we started adding more yellow. And so we see that brown sort of lightening up, but lightening up as if yellow has been put in it versus white, right? So we see this range of neutrals that are tied to yellow and purple. So we took those neutrals and then we worked with saturation by bringing them down to the chart that you see here, where we're putting the white and the grays down to the blacks, right? So we see the different saturation in those neutrals and then in those pure hues such as yellow and purple, okay? So we've done this and we've been able to train our eye to see that rich color that comes into those browns, those neutrals when we're mixing, and not only the richness of it, but the uniqueness of it, because these neutrals are tied to the original colors, in this case, the yellow and the purple. Okay, so moving over to this chart where we can see the reds and the greens and then the neutrals that makes. Okay, the same can be seen with the blues and the oranges, right? So these were 3 different sets of complementary sets. Now we also know that there are many other complementary sets. All we have to do is look on the color wheel and drag our hand across to the opposite side and we know the complementary color. Okay, so we're using the primary colors, yellow, red, and blue in this case, and finding the complementary color. But we know that, for example, a yellowish orange has a complementary color as well as a yellow has a complementary color, right? To find that complementary color, we just drag our hand across the color wheel that's on the opposite side of the color, the initial color, and we know that that's the complementary color. Okay, but we're going to take what we learned here about complementary color mixing and to create those beautiful neutrals and tones and those saturations. So we're going to bring what we learned there to project 1. So now what you're looking at is the instructions for project 1. And we see the images that I put on top of that project has a lot of neutrals, and you can see the colors that are used. When we look at these are being used for, in this case, fine art painting, and then over here in advertisement. I'm wanting you to see how professional creative people are using mixing complementary colors and creating neutrals as well as saturation directly in their work, right? So you've learned how to do them because you had to do them in the previous exercise. But now I want you to actually take what you've learned, and bring it into a project, a full-out project. In this case, as I said, I'm showing you 2 examples. One is of a painting, and the other one is a photograph that can be used in a graphic art piece. So we see here in the painting of a field, we see these beautiful neutrals, but we see that they're connected to the reds, right? And we see that there's some green back here as well. So these browns aren't just browns out of a tube, they're actually mixed, and they're mixed intentionally. And you can tell that they've mixed reds and greens together to make these neutrals. They've also worked with saturation, where they've worked with those whites and those blacks to have those really nice light areas and darker areas. So in this case, what I'm talking to you about is using the complementary set. In this case, where you see the man walking on the rocks, he has that blue on, and then he's surrounded by these browns that have a lot of orange in them, right? That complementary again. This is what you're getting ready to do in this assignment. So as I come up here, I'm going to scroll to show you those steps. This assignment is about creating a piece from out of any creative discipline of your choice. I recommend that you consider your major. Are you majoring in user interface design? Are you majoring in animation and fashion and jewelry design and marketing? I want you to take the rules that we are learning about mixing complementary colors and then mixing neutrals and saturation. I want you to take those rules to create a composition for a creative piece in your discipline, right? So you're not limited by materials either. You can work digitally, you can work with traditional or physical tools. It does not matter. You can work with the acrylic paints that you have, but you can also work with alcohol-based markers. You can work with cameras. You can work with software. So anything that you want to work with, that's fine. But we're going to be looking at the compositions we make and making sure that we are employing complementary color sets, mixing them to make neutrals, and then using the saturation to work in those lights and darks of those colors. Okay, so we see it in these first two examples, but then we're going to go through this process. So when I take you down in the steps, the first step is we're going to do research and analyze our research. Okay, and this is something that we have worked on if you were in the Thursday class, and this is what we did. If you weren't in the Thursday class, then you do have some work to catch up with. And of course, you can always speak with me and I'll be happy to help you as well. But hopefully this video will help you. So the first part of this is to do some research. Begin to collect some media work. Think about it. Are you going to work in film? What are some films that you really liked? Were there particular scenes that you thought were very interesting, very compelling emotionally? Go back to those films and take screenshots of that because you're going to be analyzing that scene as it pertains to color. Think about it. Are you majoring in game design? I want you to go back to those games and capture a screenshot that you think is most compelling. The point of doing this is to analyze the pieces of work that you think are very strong pieces. Once you can analyze it and understand it, it means that you can take what you've learned there to add it to your repertoire so that you can use it in your work. Okay, so we're going to do that with 5 pieces. If you are working in graphic design, you're going to do the same thing. If you're working in photography, it does not matter what creative discipline. Some of you are working with acting, and I've worked with you one-on-one to come up with some strategies for using this for acting as well. Fashion, a lot of you are working in fashion too. So you're going to first just collect some pieces that you think are interesting, and then we're going to go about analyzing them. The way we want to do that is we're going to be looking at those color schemes. I particularly want you to choose pieces where you can see those complementary color sets. Okay? If that gets complex, it's okay. Just pull them. As long as you can recognize the type of color theory they're using, that's fine. So let me be clear. First, try to find the pieces that are using complementary color sets. If you're having problems finding them, that's when you can say, well, I like this other piece, but they're really using the analogous color theory, for example. That's okay. But first, see if you can find complementary, and that will be one of the easier ones to find. People tend to use complementary color sets. So when you collect them, I want you to look at them and you're going to answer these questions that I have here. You're going to write 1 to 3 paragraphs discussing them. You know, you're going to use the example. In this case, I put an example of a scene in film. Um, you're going to explain what we're looking at in the image, right? What do we see? Explain it as if the person cannot see the image that you're referring to. So you want to explain it. Then the next thing you want to do is explain the way they're using the color, and in particularly how they're using the color in the composition to convey emotion and mood. You want to know the color theory that they're using. Okay. And then you're going to create a color scheme for each of the media works. And by creating a color scheme, I mean here. So you see the photograph here, and along the side, you see the colors that are used in the image, right? So you're going to bring that image, whether it's a photograph or a painting, what have you, and you're going to pull out the colors that you see here with the eyedropper and record it this way. Okay, so you're going to write a 1 to 3 paragraphs about each one of the media works you selected, as well as do a color scheme like you see here. Okay. The next thing that you're going to do is begin to come up with ideas for your composition. So the idea is you've already looked at 5 good compositions and you've researched and analyzed them. But now you're going to come up with your own ideas, and it can be based on the research. But you want to do 10 brainstorm thumbnails that just allow you to explore ideas that you want to do. Do you want to do a scene for an animation or a character for an animation where you know that the colors are going to be very important to describe that character's personality? Do you want to do a graphic design piece? Do you want to design a fashion line? What do you want to do in this particular piece, that in this particular project that we have set out? So brainstorms allow you to just explore. There's no such thing as a bad idea when you're brainstorming. You just want to do at least 10. Normally people do like 50. I'm only asking you to do 10. And remember, if you need a size, 2 by 3 inches are fine, but I'm not tied to the size. Just don't do them so big that you can't move through them fast, right? Because thumbnails are supposed to be fast, loose sketches. From there, you're going to take 3 of those brainstorms, those 10 brainstorm thumbnails that you did, and do 3 comps, right? Of those 10, choose 3 that you really like the ideas of those 3 the most out of your 10 brainstorms. And you're going to do half a page loose sketches of those. You just want to build them up a little bit so that you can really flesh out your idea. And then once you get done with those 3 comps, you're going to do 1 ideation. Now that ideation should be full size. In this case, if you're working on print-based media or working on physical paper, you're going to do 9 by 12 inches, no bigger than 11 by 17, right? Because I don't want you to have something too big to be able to finish. But you're going to do it, you're going to mock it up to that size. If you're working with time-based media, you want to do it on HD 1080, okay? But you want to be able to do a mock-up that really shows us a full version of what this is going to look like. It's still going to be a little bit loose, but it'll be much tighter than your comp, and it'll allow you to flesh out your ideas some more. Now, once you're done with that, when we come into class on Tuesday, we're going to do some material tests, and we're going to do a write-up of your actual assignment proposal, because at that point, you will have already done some analyzing of work that you think is strong. You would have done some brainstorm thumbnails and your comps, as well as your final ideation. We're going to break up in small groups so that you can talk about your work and what it's about, so that you be able to really find your language when it's time to write about what your proposal is. And we'll do the material test together in class, so that those of you who've never done a material test will do that together. Okay. Now, if after listening to this, watching this video, you still have questions, do not hesitate to contact me. I can do a quick Zoom with you before class if you need to do that. But I think this may suffice for you. If it doesn't, let me know. So keep in mind with this brief I have here, the total brief is due March 5th. But for now, and you see the deadline date on each step. So we know that the research and analysis is due on Tuesday. We know that the thumbnails are due on Tuesday, your comps and your ideation. All of that's due on Tuesday. So if you have problems with those before class, let me know. And then when we get to class, we'll start your material test, help you work on your assignment proposal, and then go further into the project as you see here, all of the steps and the due dates that are tied to them. And so when we go to Blackboard, you'll see that all of those things that are due have their own submission box for you to submit them in. And you can submit them early if you want, but you definitely want to get them in on time. Okay. And you see the dates that are listed for each step. So again, I hope this helps. Do not hesitate to contact me if you need additional information. I'm happy to go over it. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Great instruction.